Alright everybody, welcome to the Weekly Chill.
And today we're going to talk about our top 10 picks of the craziest serial killers we've ever read about.
It's going to be crazy.
Number 10, Dr. Harold Frederick Shipman was an English doctor that pretty much everybody in his town trusted. But he was responsible for up to 250 murders.
Wow.
Nobody suspected anything of this guy until the death rate started going up crazy and somebody got suspicious and eventually they caught the guy. And when they did, he got 15 consecutive life sentences.
In January 2004, Shipman was found hung in a cell at Wakefield Prison. Number 9. One of United States' most prolific serial killers, Gary Ridgway, was arrested in 2001 for 4 murders, even though he confessed to murdering over 70 different
women.
This all happened between the 1980s and the 1990s in Washington State. He avoided the death penalty by giving cops detailed confessions of where the bodies were dumped. His nickname was the Green River Killer.
There were 49 murder convictions, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole.
No second chances.
Number 8. Arthur Shawcross. Arthur was known as the Genesee River Killer. The man first killed in 1972, and it was after he sexually assaulted a 10-year-old boy after luring him into the woods in New York. He then raped and killed an 8-year-old girl, which he was captured for and convicted of manslaughter. Arthur served 14 years in prison, and he was released in 1988 and went on to kill 12 prostitutes.
That's a lot of dead hoes.
Number 7. Jeffrey Dahmer, aka the Milwaukee Cannibal. He was an American serial killer who raped and murdered and dismembered 17 men between 1978 and 1991. He was also convicted of necrophilia, dismembering them and eating them in his own home. Dahmer was later caught because one of his would-be victims overpowered him and then later let the police know.
The man was sentenced 15 terms of life imprisonment.
However, just 2 years into his jail time, he was beaten to death and murdered.
Not gonna lie, I don't feel bad for the guy because he kind of
did some messed up stuff.
Number 6. This would be Dennis Nilsen, and he's the British equivalent of the guy that we just talked about, Jeffrey Dahmer. Dennis was a homosexual serial killer that killed 15 men in his home in London. This happened between 1978 and 1983. He would retain his victim's body before dissecting them, and he would either burn their bodies or just flush them down the toilet.
Literally try to flush remains.
You have to be really stupid and flush down some body parts.
You gotta flush me down the toilet.
Flush me down the toilet. You ain't gonna flush me down the toilet.
And because he flushed remains down the toilet, that's actually how he got caught. Human flesh was discovered in the local sewage system.
Can you imagine just chilling and seeing some flakes of skin just going by and you know exactly what it is? What the fuck is that?
He was convicted in 1983 of 6 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment.
To this day, he can still be found in prison at Full Sutton Maximum Security Prison in Yorkshire. Number 5. This one's special because it's 2 people. They're actually married. Fred and Rose West. Between 1967 and 1987, Fred and his wife Rose murdered, tortured, raped, and did all kinds of other fucked up shit to 11 girls. Many of these murders happened at their home at 25 Cromwell Street, Gloucester, and their house actually has a nickname now called the House of Horrors. In 1994, they were both charged after a cop obtained a search warrant and found bones in their garden and bones under their floorboards of their house. How creepy is that? During the trial, Fred actually hung himself prior to being sentenced.
In 1995, Rose was jailed for life, being found guilty on 10 accounts of murder.
In 1996, their house was actually demolished.
Number 4. Known as the acid bath murderer, John George Hay was an English serial killer during the 1940s.
Although he was convicted of 6 killings, he admitted to killing 9 people.
He was a professional con man, and he tricked wealthy individuals and lured them in so that they would believe that he was a successful businessman.
He would lure his victims to a warehouse where he would shoot them.
He would then dissolve their bodies in sulfuric acid.
Isn't that like Breaking Bad?
Pretty much.
And then he would forge papers in order to sell their possessions and collect their life savings.
I mean, that's kind of a smart idea. but it's also kind of messed up. It's extremely messed up.
And at the end of it all, traces of human remains were found, and he was found guilty. And in 1949, he was sentenced to death, and then he was hung at Wandsworth Prison.
Number 3, Ted Bundy, one of the most widely known murderers of the 20th century. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer and rapist who kidnapped and overpowered young women and girls. He would usually meet girls in public places and then lure them to a secret place where he would later sexually assault and murder them. He decapitated at least 12 victims and sometimes would actually keep some of the heads as souvenirs and keep them in his apartment.
Look at this guy's face.
Repeatedly captured, he twice managed to escape from the courthouse and then later killed at least 3 more people.
He was convicted of multiple murders, and he was sentenced to death
by the electric chair in 1989. 1989.
Number 2, Tommy Lynn Sells. This guy claimed to have killed at least 70 people. Tommy is considered to be one of the most dangerous offenders in Texas, and he's been convicted of several murders between 1985 and 1999, including stabbing a 13-year-old girl 16 times. He was eventually caught after breaking into a 10-year-old girl's bedroom and stabbing her, but despite her injuries, she managed to escape and alert her neighbors.
She then provided the cops with details that then later led to his arrest.
Sentenced to death.
He remains on death row till this day.
Number 1,
You got a special place in hell for this one.
John Wayne Gacy.
this man sexually assaulted and murdered at least 33 young men in a series of killings between 1972
1978.
In Chicago, Illinois.
He would lure young boys to his home with promise of work and money, but he would just end up strangling them, and they would never leave,
The guy buried 26 of his victims under his house.
disposing his later victims in the river. Convicted of 33 murders, he was then sentenced to death. He spent 14 years in prison before he was executed by the lethal injection.
On May 10th, 1994.
Well, alright guys, that's all we got today, but I hope you enjoyed it.
If you like what you see, we've got plenty of other videos. Give this one a like.
Subscribe down there if you want to.
Leave us a comment. Give us some suggestions. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Share it to Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, whatever you want to do.
And ultimately, thank you guys for watching The Weekly Chill.
See you guys next time.